Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bravery Behind the Brand podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Jane, and today I have with me Linda Bretherton from At Home with Ayurveda, and that's holistic healing. Hello, Linda,
Hi, Amanda. Nice to be here.
and thank you for joining me. So, we're going to have a little chat and then we're going to get straight in to talk about you and what you do. But before we do, tell me what motivates you?
Well, honestly, what motivates me is waking up in the morning, is the food that we cook, how I feel about the day. But if something that livens me up, I would put Elvis on or the Beatles or Roy Orbison, some of the great oldies I like to listen to. But I wouldn't say necessarily motivates me. I would say that I enjoy it and it cheers me up now and then.
I still love a bit of Elvis, love a bit. I love the Beatles and I love Roy Orbison as well. Isn't it
Yeah.
amazing how, after all these years, all of those artists still stand up?
Iconic.
Yeah, absolutely iconic. And my daughter, she's studying A levels at the moment, and interestingly, she's studying the Beatles. And I
Oh,
just like,
wow.
wow, that's amazing. She's actually studying the Beatles and all the, all the technical things behind that. So I just love it, an opportunity for me to get involved in what she's studying. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, all of those things are just absolutely wonderful. And oh, Roy Orbison as well. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So let's talk about you and your brand. So tell us about your business and who or what inspired you to start it.
Um, well, my whole life and so it is a business, but it's really just my life. Ayurveda, the word means the science of life. So it's about the science of how we live daily, weekly, monthly, every year throughout our lives. And it involves what we eat, what we do, how we sleep, how we interact with others. It involves all our health. So it really is about the science of living. And so Ayurveda is a modality that covers the whole of our lives. So it covers everything from um, herbal medicinal, it covers everything from meditation, yoga, cooking. And so it's a vast, huge subject, which it would be if it was the science of living. And it's 7,000 years old. And when the British invaded India, which is part of where it came from, they took portions of Ayurveda. And so things like reflexology, things like acupuncture, things like EFT, which in Ayurveda are Mama points, were all taken from Ayurvedic principles. But Ayurveda covers all of it. So you can imagine the training is huge. So I can do all those small pockets that many people now do as an individual modality. So that's what Ayurveda stands for. And so when I work with clients, what we're doing is helping them to live a better life through all those areas. So we have routines, rituals, types of cooking. We look at the types of body constitution. So Ayurveda has three main body constitutions, which are called vata, pitta, kapha, and they are directly connected to the elements of the earth, which is air, fire, water, earth, and space. And so, this body constitution, which many people get confused with, is simply all the elements that exist in the universe within our body. And that tells us what kind of food we should be eating, what kind of drinks we should be drinking, what we should do in the seasons. So Ayurveda focuses very much on the seasons as well. There are 6 seasons in Ayurveda, not 4. And each season has its own particular types of food, particular routines, particular things to do. So it's something I've done. I was trained in a Vedic monastery 30 years ago, and I was doing Ayurveda before that as well, but I then had serious training. And then I went to Mumbai and I did some clinical training in hospitals there. So I've been doing it for a long time.
Wow, it's so interesting. And all those things you mentioned, we know them, the reflexology and all of those things, we know them as individual things. And I've never heard of it combined as one thing. And what you said about the seasons and the foods that we should be eating, and it makes absolute sense to eat the food that is part of, the seasons, what's growing in
Yeah,
that
and
time.
from
Yes,
your area. So seasonal and local
local. Yeah.
is the best way
Mhm.
to eat healthy food. Yeah, that's
I've
right.
always, I've always thought myself that everything that you and your body needs can be found in nature. It's always been something I've always believed in. So how did you get into that? What attracted you to that in the first place?
Well, it's a big long story, but I'll give you the shortened version. When I was studying at the Ford Institute, which was in La Jolla in America, and so I was going there on a training session, and at the airport there was a book on Ayurveda, which I knew a little bit about. But I picked it up and I thought, oh, this is fascinating. I put it down and didn't think about it again. And then um, 12 months later, I went on another cruise. It was actually a cruise, but it was a teaching cruise. And while I was on this teaching cruise, a chap came up to me and said, I'm sorry to bother you, but I really need to get to know who you are. And I said, oh, that's interesting. That's a line. And he said, I'm with my wife, and I've been watching you come into the dining room. And I said to my wife, I don't know why, but I need to know that lady. And my wife said, go on, go over and speak to her. So I joined them at their table. I was on my own on this cruise. So I joined them at this table and we were chatting and talking. And we became friends. And he said, I don't know why, but I just had this thing. I had to meet you. And I'd done loads of spiritual work prior to this. Um, and anyway, at the end of the cruise, we swapped emails, but I gave him my works email, not my private email. I had an office in Manchester at the time. This is 30 years ago, even longer probably. And so I gave him my works email and came home. And when I got home, I was tidying up. I'd been away a couple of weeks and I found this Ayurveda book again that I'd picked up a while before. And I picked it up and I thought, this is really interesting. I really want to do it. I really want to do it. So I'm looking at the back of the book and it said it was a monastery. This teaching was at a monastery in North Carolina, in the Pisgah Mountains in North Carolina, in a monastery at the foot of the mountains. And they didn't have a phone or an email. You had to write in. And it said that the courses started in, I can't remember now whether it was November and then spring. And it was October when I was looking at this book. And I thought, oh God, be great to go in November. I don't want to wait till next year. And as I was sat at my desk, my phone rang, and my business partner at the time, who was in the office in Manchester, said, do you remember that chap that you met on the cruise and you gave him the office email? And I said, yes, yes, yes. I don't want to, I have no time to talk to you. I'm trying to find this monastery. I've got to write to it. And my partner said, where's the monastery? And I said, in America. And he said, oh, okay. um, where in America? He said, what do you want me to do about Dave, the guy on the cruise? What do you want me to? And I said, I'll answer it when I come in the office next week. And he said, where is this place in America? And I said, North Carolina. And he went, where in North Carolina? And I said, I've just got, and I went and looking at the book, Asheville, Asheville. And he said, Linda, that's where Dave lives. It's on the bottom of his email. So
Wow.
on the bottom of Dave's email, it had Asheville, North Carolina.
Wow. That's
So
unbelievable.
I rang him up there and then, and he said that monastery is round the corner from where we live in the mountains.
Wow. That's
So we
unbelievable.
went to the monastery. It's only female monks. And one of the monks said, we've had a cancellation for November. Get your lady here. So I was in the monastery a month later in
Wow.
North Carolina.
So the stars aligned absolutely perfectly for you. Oh, I don't you just love it when that happens? And I
So it was amazing, yeah. And
oh
there was
wow.
lots and lots of incredibly synchronistic things happened after that at the monastery and that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
But that was amazing because we became very good friends and they then managed me. They became my managers in America and I went all over America giving talks and seminars and things like that.
What an incredible story. And I always find myself saying I don't believe in coincidences because I you just said synchronicity and I think that's the key word. That's incredible. I'm just sat hanging on your every word.
Well,
Oh, and yeah, wow, that is unbelievable. Just utterly amazing these occurrences that lead you to, to your higher path and the things that you're absolutely supposed to be doing. So with all of that incredible story, then what was your biggest challenge and how did you overcome it?
um, I think, well, I've had several big challenges, but if you're talking about that particular time in my life, it was probably the challenge to find my own inner guru rather than, and I say this to students now. So this weekend when I had my Ayurveda, I call them short retreats because they come for the day, stay overnight, and then they leave at lunchtime the next day. So it's a short time. We're packing loads of stuff. But two of the people on the retreat were saying how much they um, looked up to me and put me on a pedestal. And I said to them, that becomes a huge problem because you believe I'm the one that's going to be doing the healing or I'm the one that does it, when in actual fact it isn't. So I think that my biggest challenge at that time was the struggle between the Swamini, who was the guru of the monastery, um, who and many gurus do. There are a few that don't, but many gurus actually want to be adored and want to be the guru. And um, the challenge there, and I did. It was a huge challenge because 10 years later I was faced with it again. The challenge was to see that these bigger than thou, bigger than you think, and it's all thinking, which is all an illusion. The thinking mind is an illusion. This bigger than thou image of somebody is actually not bigger than thou, and they actually still go to the toilet just like you do, and they still get a bath and they still are exactly the same. But we fall into the trap of believing that they are more, that they are better that they may have more intelligence and they may be slightly wiser from experience, as I know I am. But the challenge was dealing with that, dealing with the struggle between being, if you like, controlled by that better than you energy and seeing that that is an illusion. And I've done masses of work on that, and I do that with my students.
So interesting, isn't it? And the personalities that are charismatic and enigmatic and charming and seductive, and I don't mean that in a, in a
In a sexual way,
yes,
no.
exactly. It's, people tend to fall for these images and for forgetting that the power to change, to grow, to develop is within themselves. And
That's right.
and it saddens me really when people are looking for these solutions externally when the journey begins with yourself. And people do forget that the power is right there. And I love that you said that because it's in my view what is wrong with the modern world and the pitfalls of social media and the money and the glamour and all of these symbols that people are tricked into aspiring to, and that's what defines success. And it becomes a worry for me really when all those shiny shinies become the sought after thing, when in actual fact it's going back to the very basics of humanity, isn't it? And what was
Well, it's an illusion. The sought after thing is very nice. There's nothing wrong with having a Ferrari. There's nothing wrong with having whatever they want to have. The problem is they think it's the Ferrari that's going to make them happy.
exactly.
There's nothing wrong with we're in a dualistic world where we can have shiny, sparkling things, but need to understand that those shiny, sparkling things are not what brings the happiness.
Yeah.
You can have them and enjoy them,
Mhm.
but they're transient. They're never going to remain shiny and happy
Mhm.
because a car will rot or rust or whatever. So there's nothing wrong with having them.
Mhm.
It's about why one has them. Is it
Exactly.
to have a bigger status? Is it to believe that they're going to be happy with that thing? And they will be in the short term.
Mhm.
The new coat always makes us feel great for a little bit, then it gets shabby.
Yeah.
And understanding that, and this is where spiritual materialism has a real problem in that the real understanding is not about not having these things. It's fine to have a great big house and a beautiful car. Nothing wrong with that. And that's where the spiritual woo woos and the Josh sticks and the Jesus sandals say that nothing is better, simplicity is better. That's an illusion. We're in a dualistic world and we can have the shiny, we can have the plain. None of it matters because none of it's real.
Mhm.
None of it really exists, other than in our minds. What really matters is how we feel inside. So we can have a fabulous Ferrari, driving it, knowing that the Ferrari doesn't give us the happiness, it just gives us a joyride.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mhm.
It's an illusion.
If it was the answer to all happiness, there would be no unhappy rich people. If that was the
Well, that's it.
answer.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And then also there wouldn't be unhappy poor people.
yeah, yeah.
You know,
Just
it's
yeah.
it's a double. People try to make something into what it isn't,
Hmm. Hmm.
and that's what brings the misery. The
Yeah.
strive to be something when all you have to be is you. The
Mhm.
problem with that what I've just said, you only have to be you, is that many people don't know who you is, who me is.
Mhm.
And that's where the mentor, I call myself a mentor or a guide, that's where the mentor or the guide comes in to guide people into where to look and what to do and how to be. And that's, of course, where Ayurveda comes in.
Mhm.
Ayurveda is about sadhana, and sadhana means the living meditation, the daily living of meditation. To be aware daily in what you're doing, when you're walking, when you're cooking, when you're with your dogs, when you're with children, when you're at work. Sadhana is the daily living of meditation.
Mhm. Mhm. So interesting, isn't it? It's just so fascinating. I'm going to have to do a lot more reading after this podcast. So, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
I'd probably say, um, do you know, I also don't really believe in legacies. I think they're also a bit of an illusion, um, in that. But if while I'm alive, I can help people to understand how wonderful Ayurveda and the life of Ayurveda is, then I will be content with that. Um, I think that, I say to people that people will remember you and then forget you in a heartbeat. You're really and truly, you're simply not that relevant to anybody other than your family, your closest family. You know, tell me who your great great grandfather was. You probably don't know. You probably don't know his name. Your great 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 grandfather. You won't even know his name. You probably won't know where he was. You won't know his wife's name. You might know your grandfather and your grandmother, but then there it ends.
Mhm.
Um, Life just moves on. It's, this concept of leaving this for my children or leaving a legacy for some. It's just another human illusion in that anybody cares, you
Mhm.
know, um, as long as we can live. If you were to ask me a better question for me, would be, what do you think enables us to be vital and young in mind and spirit, regardless of age? I'm 73. I opened a restaurant 2 years ago. I was 71. I'm opening a brand new centre in Chester. It'll be open in December. Whether we'll have people going there yet, I don't know, but it'll certainly be open in the new year. So I think the answer to that is having a really varied purpose. So I don't mean a purpose where you are completely dedicated to it, um, overriding everything else. I think variety, being inspired, believing that when you get to 65, it's not retirement and the end of the world,
Mhm.
believing that there's more, another 20, 30 years minimum. It's another lifetime
Mhm.
that you could do things. So I think it's about a variety of purpose.
Mhm.
And so often people, I mean, I suspect I would have to say that I've been, uh, I wouldn't say lucky because I don't believe in luck either, but I've been fortunate in that I've always been kind of entrepreneurial. So I've had some jobs, but then you get people that have had jobs all their lives and then they retire. And now what? They
Yeah.
talk about retirement and then retirement happens. And now what? They can go on a couple of holidays, they can sit around for a bit, and then they get older and bored. Now what? So it would be the variety of having different types of purposes to
Mhm.
do things, not just holidays, but to be involved in something.
I love that attitude. I love that approach. And perhaps the question for you should have been, What impact do you think you've had on the people that you've coached, the people that you've spent time with, those people that you met when you were in the monastery, all your travels? What kind of impact do you think you've had on those people?
Um, well, some good, some not so good. Um, I have lots of um, emails from people who say I've changed their lives for the better, and that they feel motivated, and that they're going to continue to eat better, cook better, live better, that kind of thing. And then there are people that um, don't want to be told that what they're doing is not the right way because they are stuck in a position that is threatened or challenged.
Mhm.
And so I'm pretty straight with people. I tell them exactly what I think is the problem. And some people don't want to hear that. So the impact is both probably more positive than not. But nevertheless, it's both sides of the coin, really.
Well, I think sometimes you just have to speak as you find, especially with what you do. You're not going to help anyone by telling them fibs. So that's, you
Well,
have to be.
that's what I say this to people. You can go anywhere. You can go to your friends, you can go to your family, who will all pat you on the shoulder and say, "Oh, we're sorry, and we support you and we want to help you, and let's do something lovely. Let's go out and have a nice cake, or let's go out and do something." And all that's very, very nice, but it actually doesn't make the shift or the change that is actually needed when people are stuck,
Yeah.
when people are in an environment that is self-sabotaging, holding them back, not being able to move on. So, and they can't move on with actually, well, they could have many years of talking therapy, and that might work, and sometimes it does. Um, I'm actually a qualified psychotherapist anyway, so I know that kind of modality of working, but it takes years and years and years, and sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. It often makes the client feel better because they've got somebody to talk to. But if somebody is looking to change their life or something radical in their lives, what they need is challenges, and what they need is to be pushed. What they need is be to chip, break something open so that something new can come through. And that's how I work.
Mhm.
So that can be very, very challenging to some people.
Mhm.
Um, and well, it's very challenging to everybody, but some people will resist and say, um, how dare you say that to me? You've no idea what it's like. You don't know what's going on and all that kind of thing. And in most cases, I do know very much the same type, not exactly the same, but I know I've lived long enough to have gone through many challenges and shifts and changes. Um, and the only way through is usually through um, pushing them, or a kick up the backside, I might say.
Okay, so some tough love, or
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
a better term for that, isn't there? Ruthless compassion, is that the term?
yeah, tough love, kick up the backside, telling them how it is.
Yeah,
Um,
not pandering. Yeah. Hmm.
well, there's no room for that. There are plenty, plenty, plenty. You've seen it all over Facebook. You see all these pretty quotes that come online, um, all the lovely um, Facebook pages. I mean, they're all very pretty with the angels and the fairies and all, and very lovely. I'm not saying people shouldn't be interested or enjoy them, but if somebody wants to change, it isn't going to happen from that kind of
No.
material spiritualism,
Mhm.
which is surface.
Yeah. Something a little bit more deeper. So,
You know, even Jesus had tough love.
yes, yes. Tell me about your books. You're a published author, and I'm
Yeah,
going to put the links to your books in the show notes. So you got them there. Tell me about
right.
them.
So this is not the first book I wrote. The first book I wrote is over there, but that doesn't matter. This is this is called Dosha for Life.
Hmm.
And this is so when I came back from training from the monastery and talked about Ayurveda, people would go out and buy books on Ayurveda, and they were very confused because it appears to be complicated, but it isn't. So I wrote this book, which is a contemporary look at Ayurveda. So it's called Dose for Life. It takes you through three people that are experiencing difficulties who start to work with Ayurveda, and it tells them how to get through their difficulties. So it's um, a much more Western view for people to understand it.
And is that
So
on
that's
Amazon if I put the link in
so
the
this
Yep.
this is Dose for Life. Yeah, it's on Amazon, or um, they can get it directly from me. They
Yep.
can message me, and I often send it out to people.
Yeah. Have you
Um,
got a website? Have you
yeah, so the website is www.lindabretherton.com.
Okay, I will put that on the show
Yeah.
notes. And you had another book as well?
Then the latest book, which only came out 4 weeks ago,
Oh wow. Hot, literally hot
is
off the press.
yeah, is at Home With Ayurveda cookery book.
Oh, fantastic.
So this is about how to cook great food,
Oh.
healthy food, Ayurveda food. But the thing with this particular, both the books have got questionnaires in them
Mhm.
to help you to understand what your body constitution is. And
Uh,
so does this one. So this book, the cookery book, has the questionnaires. It tells you about Ayurveda, tells you what Ayurveda is. And so this is me and this is Sandra. And Sandra did the photographs for the book and
fantastic.
and it's a tasting. Bri actually wrote the book
Oh
and
wow.
did all the recipes. So
Amazing. Oh,
so so that's the new. This has been out about 4 weeks.
oh, congratulations. It looks absolutely stunning.
It
Um,
is lovely. It is really nice, and it's a healthy book. So if people want to know how to start to cook and eat healthy foods, this will help them to do that. The very simple, one of the other things you will, I don't know whether you're vegetarian, but I've been vegetarian ever since I went to the monastery.
mhm.
Um, but when you go into restaurants, I did a post this week on link on Instagram and on Facebook, which started something like uh, vegetarian food isn't boring. It's the chefs that don't know how to cook it
Yeah.
that are boring.
Mhm.
And so I talked about how chefs don't know how to cook good vegetarian food.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so if you are not vegetarian and you don't know many people that are not veg. So of course, when people eat meat, they have uh, um, chicken and chips, chicken and veg,
Yeah.
meat and veg,
Mhm.
veg and mincemeat,
Mhm.
fish and veg. So no, if you're not vegetarian and you don't look at it properly, you
Mhm.
don't know how to cook it. But that cookbook will show you how to do that.
Well, that will
But
interest me a lot.
easily,
Mhm.
easily. And
Yeah.
so that is on Amazon.
I'll
Um,
definitely look that up because I don't
you
eat a
can
lot of
get,
meat, and my husband's not a vegetarian. No, I eat very, very little meat, so I wouldn't call myself a vegetarian, but I don't like meat much. But we eat a lot of vegetarian food, but we don't notice that we're eating vegetarian food. It just happens to be vegetarian food that,
yeah,
which I quite like because it's not an active choice. It's just, what we cook and what we eat. And you're absolutely right. It's the chef. Vegetarian food, if you're not even aware that you're doing it, I think that's the mark of a of a good
yeah,
a good cook. Because I don't actively choose to eat meat. I just weirdly always choose the non-meat options. But there's so much scope, and I just don't particularly like meat. But if it's
yeah,
put in front of me, I wouldn't be rude and not eat it. But I don't particularly like it. But my husband, he doesn't eat that much meat because we don't buy a lot. But that will be really interesting to me because I'll just see what's there, and maybe there'll be some inspiration in there for me. But thank you so much for coming to my podcast. It's been an
you're welcome.
absolute pleasure, and I love the adventures. And I think you should write some more books about the adventures that you've had, your travels, the people that you've met, all the synchronicities that you've had. I'm sure there's a lot more stories to be told there. But thank you so much for sharing them with us. And it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm sure you'll send me the link and then I can put it on for everybody.
I will do. Thank you.
Okay.